महाभारत केवल एक कथा नहीं है, ये हमारी संस्कृति, हमारे धर्म की आत्मा है।
एक कथा पुरानी।
इस महान ग्रंथ, इस महाकाव्य को आप तक पहुंचाने के लिए हमने इस पर अथक परिश्रम किया है।
शंख बजे, रण सजे।
और हम लेकर आ रहे हैं महाभारत पर एक वर्ल्ड क्लास एनिमेटेड सीरीज।
ये है महाभारत।
हम चाहते हैं कि ये प्रस्तुति हर किसी के लिए पूर्ण रूप से निःशुल्क रहे, और इसके लिए हम हर सीजन के लिए क्राउड फंडिंग कर रहे हैं। आप सब इस क्राउड फंडिंग कैंपेन में अपना योगदान करिए और इस संकल्प को साकार करने में हमारी सहायता करिए। हमारा आपसे निवेदन है कि आप अपने परिवार और मित्रों के साथ इस क्राउड फंडिंग कैंपेन से अवश्य जुड़ें और अधिक से अधिक लोगों के साथ इसे साझा करें, ताकि महर्षि वेद व्यास का, भगवान कृष्ण का दिया हुआ उपदेश और महाभारत का संदेश हर घर तक पहुंचे और हमारे धर्म और संस्कृति की पुनः संस्थापना हो। धन्यवाद। Namaskar, good evening. Welcome to Unfiltered with Prachyam Live. It's a very special show tonight. And before we start, may I request all of you that Prachyam is world's first Bharatiya Sanatani OTT platform. If you want to know anything about Bharat, about our culture, Sanskriti, Itihas, our great traditions, knowledge systems, philosophies, you can go to prachyam.com, subscribe to our OTT, and you can watch world-class films on all these topics. There are more than 500 titles on our OTT, and it's your own OTT. Make it a part of your life, connect your children with their own civilizational and cultural roots, and share with your friends and peers. Today we are going to talk about Hinduphobia. To put it in easy words, what Hinduphobia is. Hinduphobia, it's a very irrational hatred, fear, prejudice directed at Hindus around the world, on our text, on our traditions, on our scriptures, on our dharma, and on all the practitioners of Hindu dharma. The conversation around Hinduphobia in the United States has moved far beyond isolated incidents, from university campuses and media narratives to policy debates now and identity politics. Many believe that anti-Hindu prejudice is becoming increasingly organized and institutionalized. At the same time, Indian Americans have emerged as one of the most successful and influential immigrant communities in the country, raising important questions about whether the backlash is directed only at Hindus or also at India's growing global stature. How should Hindus understand these developments, and what can be done to respond effectively? To discuss these critical issues, we are joined by a very special guest tonight on our show, who is a political analyst and an expert based in the United States, with decades of experience observing American politics, public policy, and the Indian diaspora. He offers a nuanced perspective on the intersection of geopolitics, ideology, identity, and the challenges facing Hindu Americans today. Viewers, it's such a pleasure to welcome Shri Vibhuti Jha on our show tonight. Vibhuti ji, namaskar, Jai Shri Ram, welcome to our show.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for inviting me to your beautiful OTT platform for the first ever by Captain Praveen Chaturvedi ji, who is a good dear friend of mine now. I can say that.
Thank you so
I can
much.
claim that.
Oh, yes.
And I wanted to
Yes.
thank you very much for inviting me for this very important topic because you have laid down the foundations very, very, very well in your opening statement that India is on the rise and the people are attacking us. What is the motivation? So let me take you back. To my coming to America in 1991, when I was an international banker and my job was intended to be to promote India-US trade and business and investments. And when I came here, I found that we had no story to tell. Just go back to a memory of 1991 when India had no story to tell. We were almost on the last tethers of our financial bankruptcy, that $1 billion had to be pledged to Bank of England to get the IMF restructuring loan. And I found, to my utter horror and surprise, that while we lived in India, thinking that we are the great civilization, we are the great people, we have a great history, itihas, हमारा बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन दुनिया नहीं जानती थी. And that's the time when I realized that no, there is no story about India that these people know. And since I was interacting at the very highest levels of, American gentry, who are very curious people, I found that they did not know anything about it. And that's the time when I felt that if we don't tell them who we are, how will they ever know what we are? And then we are defined by others. This is something that I definitely applaud you, and I urge everybody to subscribe to Prachyam so that you need to know your itihas. But we are living in a very remarkable time of 21st century where technology and science are our biggest allies. This is the most important realization that I had, that unless our narrative has to be conveyed. If we don't define ourselves, others define us. This is the most important learning that I had. And these are the question and answer that I developed over a period in time. I had no help. I had no Prachyam. I had no Jaipur Dialogue. I had no government agencies that were able to support me as they are doing today under Prime Minister Modi's and Mr. Jaishankar, who when he said that you will see India flexing its muscles in the domain of foreign policy. And I remember telling one of the consul generals in New York, to display of your muscles, you have to have the muscles first. If you don't have the muscle, how will you display that? So these are very important elements. And I remember a very prominent senator once told me, we love you Indians as immigrants to this country. You are professionals, you are educated, you are hardworking, you are in the highest median income, you have family values, you take care of your children. You are not a law and order problem anywhere on the planet Earth as an immigrant community, and forget about America alone. And you ask for nothing. That was the key word that he mentioned. And you ask for nothing. And I wondered really, because I worked with American Express in India. And one thing we knew that if you don't ask, you don't get. Why would anybody care to give you if you don't ask? And that's very important psychological dilemma that majority of the Indians faced here, because we were so madmast that we were with our own successes that we did not know what those who hate us were trying to do to us. And that's what is important. So from that senator's statement to today, if you see it, the attack on us Hindu Americans, I'm very particular about that use of word, Hindu Americans. I'm not using Indian Americans. I'm using Hindu Americans because we are the target. We symbolize the ancient Indian values and culture. And it's our culture that Bharat is all famous about. So there was a very interesting situation that significant number of Americans wanted to know more about India, but there was no storyteller from our side. This is very important to realize. And as we go forward in our conversation, I wanted to say something very simple, that, I realized that these Americans were not interested in intellectualizing our existence. They were problem solver, and they wanted to say, where do we go from here? That's the language I learned from here. Okay, this is all good, but where do we go from here? And to that end, I imbibed Einstein's quotation that any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to move in the other direction. And that's why, knowing what we know now, where do we go from here? And I just want to say one more thing, that yes, I can tell you that Hindu phobia is real. Hindu misuse is real. Hindu hate is real. And we cannot become an ostrich, putting our head in the sands, hum bahut achhe hain, everybody must like me, because we are nice. World doesn't operate. The world of geopolitics doesn't operate in that fashion. So will be my opening statement. And what is indeed true, that as of now, in the 21st century, in the year 2026, and starting from the last couple of years, especially since Mr. Modi became the Prime Minister, you are seeing prejudices, discrimination, hate crimes, online harassment, academic bias on the rise against us. And these individual incidents are actually shocking. And that's what is important for us to recognize, that the problem is real on hand. Deal with it. If you don't deal with it, nobody will deal with you.
Absolutely, Vibhuti Ji, and we are going to discuss everything to the core in tonight's show with you, all about Hindu phobia, Hindu misuse, Hindu hatred, the core reasons behind this, the mindset of the people, how we should address this, how we should do Hindu advocacy, and how we can fight a very effective battle, I would say. So coming back to what you said, I noticed the same thing when I was in the US. There was a huge gap. All narratives were being distorted, were being twisted, and there was no one doing this, to put forth the true narrative of Bharat, our great civilization and culture, our dharma. And also, there was no one who could effectively counter the fake and the false narratives being peddled, all over. And I noticed, the media and the films were being weaponized. And this is why initially I thought, there are so many people, and I'm sure somebody will really get up and do this. But eventually I realized that no, enough is not being done, and that is how I came back, and we thought of doing all this, set up the studios initially, and then finally the Prachyam studios in the OTT, to proudly tell the world what Bharat stands for, what is our Sanatan Dharma, what are its values, what are its great traditions, the Rishi Paramparas, how pristine, how old, what are the great philosophies that we have, so sublime. So that's how Prachyam started. So coming back, you said that since Modi ji has come, this trend has really gone up. I would like to ask you, the first question is that what is the reason you think, is it a part of a larger ideological and geopolitical trend? You have also argued that Hinduphobia is not just about Hindus, but also about targeting India's growing global influence. How do you explain, this connection?
That is a very, very, very important question. As the saying goes, if you do not understand the problem, your solutions will be always half-hearted. And that's what is important to understand. And this is where I will make, call it controversial, call it pompous, call it bold, a statement here, is that we are liked, our values and our philosophy, our itihas, is recognized by people all over the world. We are not standing up for that. That began to happen only when Mr. Modi came to power, because he had his background, he had his huge cultural relationship, his education, his upbringing through the Sangh. So he was always identified as the Hindutva guy. And he had the baggage of Godhra, where he was, despite being cleared by all the supreme authorities from Supreme Court down the line, he still has the blemish of having to live with that accusation, which the opposition, Hindu haters, continue to do that. But remember one thing is very important. We are the only country in the world that talks about our values. Others talk about their pragmatism of religious doctrines. This is something very important to understand for all of us. Every single Hindu, every single Indian must recognize this element very clearly. So let me give you an example. We have heard a lot about the woke army, right? Wokeism, right? Now, who constitutes the woke? The term was woke army, was coined by a very famous investigative journalist here who wrote a book, actually. If you permit me to name the author, I can also name that because the credit must belong where
Sure.
it is due, and that is Asra Nomani. Asra Nomani is a Wall Street investigative journalist, and she has seen things from the very first hand, and she defined woke army. The woke army is made up of Marxists, socialists, communists, Islamists, extreme liberals who have identified, this is an important thing to know, who have identified us as their common enemy. This is very important to understand. They consider us their enemy, while we may consider them as Atithi Devo Bhava or Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, doesn't matter to them. And they have very strong religious undertones. So in reality, if you look at it, communism doesn't like Christianity, the extreme side of the Christianity, but under the current dispensation, the extreme religious fanatics on the right, they are also part of the same woke army now. They have unwillingly become part of that Hindu hating group. Because to them, we are a threat. And why are we a threat? They recognize it, we have not realized it. This is important to bear. They realize it because the traditional religion has its base in fear and ignorance. You realize that their religion has a base in fear and ignorance, heaven and hell. There are people who issue passports and visas to heaven and hell. Whereas in our dharma, none of that is true. Our dharma, our Sanatan dharma, is based on pure science and technology. Right? So when we apply certain yardsticks to our sayings, like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where I disagree with our Honorable Prime Minister, it doesn't mean that world is a family. Family in the concept of Islam and Christianity is very different. Their base is also the same, but their practice is very different. Here people marry and remarry their children, my children, our children. This happens every day. Islam has a practice of 4 wives. Right or wrong, I'm not sitting on judgment here. But they are based on very tatkal kind of an imagery. Ours is deep and long. So my definition of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is actually, it is a kutumb. God-given planet, God-given earth, and God created life, and he gave us life-sustaining elements. And what are those life-sustaining elements? Sun's energy, without which we will be in a frozen state of affairs. We will not be alive. Without air, we won't live for a nanosecond. Without water, we will live for 7 days, but we'll die of dehydration. Then we have space, and we have the earth. This is what makes up, and this is common to every single life element on the planet Earth, whether you are belonging to America or Mozambique or Zambia, A to Z. This is what is important to realize. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means we use the same God-given energies to sustain our life. Parivar and family is a very warped concept here, and I dare say that. Because the people walk away from marriages. People walk away, children are sent off at 16 years of age to manage their life. The relationships exist, Relationship exists, but relationship doesn't mean anything. वो हिंदी का शब्द है, we are related, but we don't have a relationship. हम संबंधी हैं, लेकिन संबंध नहीं है.
बहुत सही कहा आपने, बिल्कुल सही कहा.
Thank you.
बिल्कुल
Thank you.
सही
So
कहा.
this is
बहुत
what is
बढ़िया.
important to realize. They have configured that as science and technology advances, Sanatan Dharma will have an automatic spin-off and recognition. Because at the time of COVID, nobody's God could save a single 9 million people who died. Nobody's God could come. No priest, no mullah, no padri could say, wave the magic wand and save a life. So people have begun to realize, and I ask this question to everybody. You talk about heaven and hell. Any call report from there? What life is in heaven or hell? There are certain fundamental questions that need to be asked. This is very important for normal Indians who are not even aware of what our dharma is all about. Because our dharmic pravritti, our dharmic life was suppressed, oppressed for thousands of years. You and I know that. We are taught elements that were false. You know that today we are having that conversation. To establish the Indic heritage and Indic way of life, we have to fight for it. Nobody else will establish it for us. So from that point of view, that fear is driving the woke army, the elements in there, which communists, socialists, Marxists, and then you have Islamists, and Khalistanis, the geopolitical today, they are all against us because we are the common enemy. They have come to that conclusion. Isko maro, phir baad mein dekhenge. We will settle our.
And also, may I add, now the Khalistanis,
yes,
also part of the same gang,
yeah,
which have started targeting us.
Yes, I said Khalistanis, now added by Khalistanis and religious fanatics. They know that today, as the veil of ignorance dissipates because of science and technology, now we know the diseases are not, there is no milder form of migraine in Muslims, and the cancer is not cute and beautiful in Christianity. The diseases hit everybody equally. If you have ulcer, it doesn't matter. So religious undertones and overtones do not determine your physicality. The reality of life in the doctor's office or a doctor's clinic, he treats the disease. And that's what is important to know and to understand. This is the message that we have to take forward. That in this God-given world, women all over the world, without exception, take 9 months to produce a biologically normal child. And when somebody had asked me to convert to their faith, I had said this very simple question, and you will appreciate that. I said, "Mere baal ugenge kya? Agar main tumhare dhan ko join karta hu to." Fundamental basic questions, And will our women begin to produce children in 3 months or 6 months' time? If that doesn't happen, why in heavens do I have to convert? God gave me birth in Bharat. I'm considering myself very fortunate to be born in Bharat, in a land with absolute plenty of beauty and parampara. I love your name Prachyam because आपने प शब्द का जो इस्तेमाल किया है वो बहुत ही सटीक है, क्योंकि हमारे ही धर्म में पुरुषार्थ, पराक्रम और प्रभुत्व का महत्व है, और वो तभी आएगा जब हम अपने लिए उठेंगे. Unless we rise ourselves, it will not happen. So point of the matter is very simple. These elements are committed, decided to eliminate us. And as you see, they are taking help of our own people to do that. In America, particularly, if you notice, these elements began to act for a very long time. We were kind of, unengaged. We always thought that other guy is a nice guy. Atithi Devo Bhava. But Atithi Devo Bhava, the enemy is at the door who wants to kill you. He's not your Atithi. So we have to understand our own concepts as well. And to that end, I would urge people like every ordinary Indian to subscribe to channels like yours. Prachyam, absolutely my favorite. You have begun to inculcate the itihas, the true story, and I applaud you for making Mahabharat as a tool. The movie that you are making. And I'll tell you something. I have studied that. I did not hear. I studied that. This is very important for every single Indian to know this. In 1983, September or October, I was in Bangalore in Reserve Bank of India. We had invited our Harvard MBA consultant, a gentleman from Tamil Nadu, and he made a very profound statement, which is what led me to this exercise. He said in Bankers Club, when we invited him to speak, he said, we Indians do not need to go to Harvard, Yale, Cambridge, or Stanford to study management. We have to study, he emphasized the word study, our own texts of Mahabharata, Ramayana, Gita, because all life lessons are right out there. Right out there. We have to study, not read. It's more than that. And I began to study from that time onwards. And I will share with you and your audiences my learning, my primary learning of Mahabharata from Mahabharata and Ramayana was that not a single character, Shakuni ya Kaikeyi, koi bhi, kisi ko bhi, not anybody has been called a bad person. I mean, I tell me if I'm wrong. No character or person has been called a bad person. But everybody, from Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, to Duryodhan, to Yudhishthira himself, Arjun himself, everybody had to lead and live with the consequences of the choices and decisions they made. Bhishma Pitama had to sleep on a bed of arrows. Why? Because the choice and decision he made. Think about it from that perspective, that our decisions and choices impact us. And that's the message I'm conveying to every single Hindu Indian, that you have choice to act, not act, and be inactive. Remember, all three are actions. And if you do not understand the implication of each one of these, action, inaction, and no action, you will have a problem. आज मैं आपके शो में इसलिए आया हूं, आपने मुझे निमंत्रण दिया. I accepted. I can't blame you for taking my time. Right? It's my choice. I'm here with you talking about that. This is a very simple message. Because I've had to fight this entire battle single-handedly in this country myself, building the narrative. I do not depend on anybody for anything. And I think this is what Indians need to do. This is what Hindus need to do. Individually, what you can do, create a collective platform and use the institutional framework. We have to do that. And that's what is important to understand, that the entire world is against us. There are Christian nations, there are Muslim nations, but there is no Hindu Rashtra. Isn't something that needs to be thought about. I'm not saying you have to have a Hindu Rashtra is a brutal Rashtra. No, we are not. We are not brutal by our very nature of things. I will drop a line here, because there was a boy from Pakistan who used to watch my shows and my presentations in Jaipur Dialogue and others. And he said something on my Twitter message he sent me. I said, Mr. Jha, I like your words and I like your program. Why do you hate Muslims? And I replied to him. I said, I'm a Hindu. I'm incapable of hating anyone, at least on religious grounds. Because we worship Kali, Durga in one Sarup. We worship Saraswati, Lakshmi, Ganesh ji, Shiv ji, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. We have created an environment in which you are inspired by somebody or something. Somebody is inspired by Bodhi tree, somebody by the ocean, somebody by moon, somebody by just looking at things. So inspiration, God is an inspiration in us. And it can come in any form. You are a soldier, I'm a banker. Who is right and who is wrong? That's what is important to understand. And because in the US, we are remarkably successful, we are remarkably disengaged with the domestic, local politics, local way of life. We are pretty much satisfied, santusht hai apne aap mein, that we forget that engagement is the way you communicate. Only when you get engaged with your community you live in, that's when people get to know you. That's what is important for every single Indian to do that. That we cannot afford to be unengaged. So let me give you an example here. Few years ago during COVID time, New York State was going to pass a legislation. Senate or Assembly may, it was one of them had passed it. The second body needed to also pass it. When we came to know of it, we had a Zoom meeting with the New York State senators and assemblymen, and we told them what swastik means for us. They were calling it the hate symbol of the Nazi hate symbol. And we did the whole presentation to them, how swastik, Hindu swastik is different than the Nazi Hakenkreuz. We told them that if you want to declare hate symbol, declare Hakenkreuz as a hate symbol, but not swastik. And they said, we had no idea this symbol meant so much for you. By the way, this particular legislation was also pushed by a Christian Democrat who was an Indian. When he said, oh, I had no idea, I admonished him. It's a shame for you that you are an Indian from a state where Rangoli happens every now and then, and you had the gall to say that I did not know about it. So we have to confront the situation truthfully. We have to, I always say that at the current time, we must embrace Satyameva Jayate as our slogan and give Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam some time to rest.
Beautiful. Very well said, Vibhuti Ji. And so I would like to ask you, because since we are doing a very deep analysis of the core causes or reasons behind Hinduphobia, and you said, the Hindu Americans, they are very successful, they are in all, various professions, various fields. Is this, the core reason, or what is the core reason, why the Hinduphobia has gone up in the last few years, I would say. It was there, but not much, but it is growing by the day now.
Yes, it is growing by the day. You are seeing those online harassment, academic bias, vandalizing of Hindu temples. If anybody else builds his own prayer place, which is huge, that's not a problem. But if a Hindu builds a Hanuman Ji ka statue, that becomes a problem. It's because we do not confront them with the same democratic means that they use to advance their own thought process. So why this is on the rise? Our success is a factor. Our success is a factor because it draws attention. We don't own guns. Majority of the Hindus don't own guns. You are a soldier, you understand the value of gun. I understand the value of gun because it is definitely an instrument to protect and defend yourself. That's how our dharma is. All our gods and goddesses are, to use the Hindi word susajjit, with astra and shastra. And we became ahimsa paramo dharma. Where did that come from? So this is what is happening. In this country, what is happening is also driven by the political element. And the political element is back home in India. This is something which I want every Indian to know this from all over the world. All over the world. America is the bastion of democracy and freedom. You can see that freedom has become the fault line of democracy, used, abused, and misused by everybody. And you and I are target. You and I are target because of the factors that I mentioned to you earlier, that the assembly, the confluence of this entire narrow vision of hate, that if these people succeed, we are at risk. Our philosophy will be at risk. So conversion is one such tool. And you will be horrified to know, I'm telling you the story of just 3 days ago. somebody came from Seattle. His ninth grade girl was being groomed and taken away from him by a Muslim colleague, friend of hers, telling her how bad Hindu philosophy is, how bad Hindu religion is, that you worship snakes, monkeys, and dogs. You have no clarity of purpose. You are vague and lost. Problem is, parents themselves didn't know much about Hindu philosophy. So they have no education at home. And when they go to classrooms, it happens in 6th and 7th grade, Pravinji. This is a shocking element. I would urge you to invite two of my very dear friends who wrote a absolutely, fantastic academic research in which how James Mill, so work in 1800s, led to the curriculum of teaching British ICS officers to destroy our faith and system. And this
Sure.
was the impact that had in America. So I'll give you one particular instance. It's there on my show, actually. Saving Hindu children, I have said this, is key for Hindus to survive in America. So
Very
in
well
6th
said.
and 7th
Absolutely.
grade, 6th and 7th grade, they are taught in American classrooms that Hindus are all kinds of, whatever is wrong with us, they are taught there, from monkeys and snakes to everything else. There are two kinds of impact on the children. One impact is they get horrified. How come my parents never told us about it? And because it's a school textbook, what happens is children consider that as a gospel truth. And then when they come to parents to ask them, parents are unable to answer or give a satisfactory response. Because there in the classroom is a very structured, forceful education and training or mind sweep. At home, parents say, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. This is the classic response. The result was that the few Hindu children in that class became segregated and got real pressure of being, oh my God, I did not know we had that kind of a system. But here was the negative element. The negative element was that in addition to those 30 children in the classroom, say for example, if 3 or 4 are Hindu girls and boys, about 26 or 27 of them are not Hindus. And they began to consider Hindus as weirdos. That led to significant suppression of the cultural milieu of the Hindu in that classroom. So you had two kinds of a situation. Children becoming absolutely swept away by the classroom teaching, false or not narrated correctly. And you had the other 27 students or 26 students who thought we are weirdos. These children, when they come to college, workplace, think about it. We are the weirdos. And we have never tried to bother to say that. This is where I ask this question of many children who are now entering.
We lost your audio. We can't hear you. We just lost the audio. Can you just check, your system? No, I can't hear you. I mean, the screen just went blank for a couple of seconds, and then we lost your audio. So let us take a short break here. Meanwhile, if you can just set it up again, reboot your system or whatever, just set it up, and then we'll rejoin in just a minute.
Prachyam is about dedicating to revive our rich cultural heritage, the essence of Bharat. We are bringing to life the echoes of our glorious past.
We need organizations like Prachyam.
It is old as well as the new rise.
प्राच्यम हिंदू के गौरव की गाथा गाता है.
60 साल में हमने जो खोया विरासत के रूप में, संस्कृति के रूप में, उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं.
Our mission goes beyond creating content. We are sparking a cultural renaissance.
प्राच्यम एक उत्तिष्ठत का नाद है।
हिंदू समाज को जोड़ने के लिए और सच्चाई दिखाने का काम प्राच्यम द्वारा हो रहा है।
कई दशकों की एक आवश्यकता को प्राच्यम पूरा कर रहा है।
Prachyam is putting out is an urgent civilization imperative.
गुलामी की मानसिकता अगर कहीं पर भी अंदर धसी हुई हो ना, उसको उखाड़ फेंकने का काम प्राच्यम का कंटेंट करता है।
Launching the world's first Hindu OTT platform is just the beginning. We have much more to achieve.
पूरा जन जन सत्य से, तथ्य से और यथार्थ से परिचित होगा।
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है।
काउंटर नैरेटिव का आंदोलन आरंभ हो चुका है।
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.
I absolutely love it.
I'm very happy to be a part of the Prachyam family.
I extend my best wishes to you and your entire team.
एक बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा हुई है, उसके लिए मैं हृदय से प्राच्यम का अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
Your support can turn this vision into reality.
Prachyam.
Prachyam is doing a very good job.
We Sanatanis need Prachyam.
People are going back to their roots.
It's important for our country.
Arm yourself with the knowledge.
It's almost like a movement.
This is a visionary endeavor.
प्राच्यम को सफलता के लिए साधुवाद।
Amazing job.
Strongly recommend do your contribution.
Support them, subscribe them.
By donating to Prachyam, you are just not giving. You are investing in our culture, our future, and our children.
Reaching out to the people with the results of the research, I wish them all the very best.
Join us on this journey. Donate today and become part of a timeless legacy.
Welcome back, viewers. We had a technical problem. I hope it is fixed now. Vibhuti Ji, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, that's wonderful. So there was a
Yeah, yeah.
temporary glitch. हमारे यहाँ कहते हैं ना कि श्रेयांसी बहुविज्ञानी अच्छा काम करने चले तो ऐसे विघ्न आते हैं। एक बहुत
Yeah, yeah.
इम्पोर्टेंट हम लोग आज डिस्कशन शुरू किए थे, तो कोई बातें हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। तो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है, two very important things that you mentioned, and let me recap it for the audience. You know, the core reason is that apart from being successful in every which way, professionally, financially, you know, we are not aware, we are not united, and we don't confront them. So that is a very important thing Vibhuti ji mentioned. We have to learn that, we have to confront, you know, we have to be active, we have to be aware, we have to be politically active as well. We should know what is going on around us. So the Hindus in America, they have to be very aware, and they also need to be united for the cause. First thing is that's a very important thing that you mentioned. And the second thing, you know, for which, and I can relate with this so much, because Prachyam is working only for this cause, that we have to make our children aware. We have to enlighten them with the knowledge of our culture, Sanskriti, civilizational values, our great traditions, our paramparas. We have to do that. We have to connect them with our roots. And Prachyam is working day and night, you know, towards this cause. So we have to guide them. We have to educate them. We have to tell them what our dharma is, what our rashtra is, what our great traditions are. And if we don't do this, if we don't give them self-pride, you know, they will become self-loathing. And, you know, if they have the pride, you know, anybody can come and brainwash them or groom them or, you know, do anything of that sort, and we are going to lose them. So the childrens are the future for our dharma, civilization, and country. They are the torch bearers of our legacies, and we have to ensure that we make the best versions of them. Very important point, you know, Vibhuti ji. Now I'm coming to this. So just, you know, in short, is Hinduphobia fundamentally a religious issue, a racial issue, or a political issue in America?
Well, you said it all. Because these are all connected elements. Political, religious, and social. These are all connected elements. See, I used to be participating in a very important study group where they used to do a deep down analysis of the impact and implication of one thing happening here, how does it impact there? Social, technology, economics, and politics, they are all intertwined. You can't say, isolate, I will not deal with politics because politics is dirty. Because then not all 545 members of parliament are dirty. Somebody has got to do the dirty job. Sanitation department will have to come and clean the house, otherwise our houses will stink, right? So this is very important. I think you have touched upon a very pivotal element. What we say in our, you can't compartmentalize something, but you can be a specialist in one area. You can be a gunner, you can be an artillery guy, you can be a commando, you can be a paratrooper, to use but you all use guns. And you have to be precision shooter. One shot, one kill, right? Otherwise you are shot and killed. This is what we have to understand. So social it is, technology it is, politics it is, economics it is. On every single element, they have put us all together in one bunch. And they hit us at every single point. So look at the woke army's ideal philosophy that is penetrated into the political system that is run, in India and here in the democratic leftist side, is called DEI, right? I had said DEI must DIE. Because that's where DEI must DIE, because if you do not respect the individual differences in this God-made world, even identical twins are different on certain behavioral and certain talent elements. Everybody is different. God was the ultimate mischief maker. He gave us the same nose, everything same, and yet made us different. Brain as well. That's why we are different. A sportsman, a cricketer, an athlete, or a soccer player, they have skills and talent for that particular avocation, that vocation. A cricketer need not be the best of baseball players. A soccer player need not be the greatest of hockey player, and vice versa. So unless and until you respect individual differences, all talk about DEI is meaningless. We became target of that because we were high performers. So hundreds of Indian CEOs who are there, they became the target. And I will tell you how we became target economic story-wise as well. Many years ago, when the drift towards these body shops happening, the technology-driven jobs began to go to ship to India, and H-1B guys were coming here. I remember seeing in New York Times a front page news that an IBM engineer or Xerox engineer, I do not remember exactly where it was, wearing his shirt, tie, and jacket, standing with a placard, I want my job here. At that time, I said, here becomes the problem. I don't want my job to go to India. The news was that IBM or Xerox, whichever the company was, they had shut down 3,000 jobs in Rochester, and that 3,000 jobs were given in India in a call center. This engineer was saying, I want my job here. I told at that time, ASSOCHAM and other industrial organizations, do the campaign that what is the impact and implication of this job switch? Because if you do not, then you will be called as a body snatcher and job snatchers. That is an attack today on us, so very prominent. On H-1B issue, that came to the fore. Because H-1B guys are waiting for green card for 15, 20 years, right? Who are they? 70% of them are Indians. And I argued on their behalf to the people who matter. Don't demonize the H-1B guys who are here. They applied for the jobs. And in your lottery scheme, they got selected. But demonizing them is a wrong thing to do, is an evil thing to do. All you need to do about H-1B, if it is not working for you anymore, shut it down. It's an American program. But don't demonize those who are part of that, right? So this is what is an issue that has come to the fore. And I say this very often, we aren't body snatchers, we are not job snatchers. Actually, we are contributing to the economy. So the Indian contribution to the American way of life, that we are not a law and order problem, is an important message. We don't say that to America. That we are contributing to the economy, whether individual successes of all the CEOs or whatever, it's part of the process. They made it there. It is the American board that selected them to head IBM, Apple, or anything. We did not. Modi did not send them to be the IBM chief or Apple chief or Google chief. The American board selected them. Why are you blaming them? That we are the job takers. So there are many levels at which we have to contest this. And that's why technology is one such element. Right now you are seeing that if you notice something, that a lot of AI industry related attacks happen in this summer convocations and school college graduation ceremonies. You know what was the reason for that? Because AI and technology is a threat to the DEI, equity, equality. Think about it from that point of view. Because you can have AI, but AI will also answer questions based on the questions you ask. And the questions and inquiries you make are a function of your own brain, your own thinking, your cultural upbringing, what you studied. Garbage in, garbage out is a classic example of computers. So AI and technology is actually a bigger threat to the left-wing Wokistanis. I call them as such. Every Indian who is woke, I call them Wokistani. I coined that part myself. It's nobody is to blame for that. What I'm trying to say here is that this is all interconnected. And I urge Indian Americans here to become part of the process from Parents Teachers Association membership. Get involved in your children's school education. Look at PTA, look at school boards. That's where the damage is done. You may have heard about this, that how Qataris have invested so deeply in American Ivy League schools and Georgetown and name it, everybody else. That's where you see brainwashing happen. Forget about brainwashing. Our children are also brainwashed already. Actually, in one of the important events that happened in DC recently, a young man was talking about a new mayor of New York City, I won't name him, he said, socialism is a great thing to do. And then I asked him, are you and I equal? So how would you establish equality and equity between the two of us? He had no answer because his father did not know how to explain it. So I'm urging all parents, I'm urging all children, talk to each other, get to know who we are. That's how it will happen. Otherwise, what is happening is, Praveenji, the incessant attack on Hindus is brought from India here. Caste, that we are Hindu fanatics, and that we are, we are some weirdos. We are not. So I must name this gentleman, one Mr. Thanedar, he's a congressman. He brought in he has introduced House Resolution number 69 in House of Representatives to acknowledge Hinduphobia as a reality. Whether House will pass it or not, I do not know. Georgia state has also introduced HR 701, anti-Hindu bias. So we have become active. There are many Indian organizations that are playing a very decisive role. And to them, I have been urging, take advantage of technology. How many people, I'm going to share this video with many, many, many Americans here. Reason is not propaganda. We have to understand propagation and propaganda also begin with P, but both mean different. If you don't propagate about yourself, others are doing propaganda. How will you fight that? So there is we need not get confused between propagation and propaganda. We have to propagate ourselves. And to that end, I once again, at the extent of being boring and repetitive, I would say Prachyam must be more successful and people must support that. And this is where it is important to bear in mind that California has an initiative called Suraksha Initiative. So these things have begun to happen. And although we are way too behind vis-a-vis our enemies who want to destroy us, we are catching up because that awareness has come about. That's the welcome sign. What I want to say also to all Indians watching here today, don't treat NRIs as a not required Indians. You and I are together in this. This battle is ours. Everything that is being hit at us here is actually directed towards India. This is important to bear in mind. And whatever happens in India, we are getting targeted here for that. So we are in this battle together. The unity of purpose, unity will come if we establish our commonality of purpose and confluence of interest. If we establish our commonality of purpose and confluence of interest, unity will automatically come. Unity is not something which is ready-made sitting in a shop that you buy and wear and unity ho gaya. वैसे नहीं होता. Unity is always behind a purpose and an interest and intent. If we establish that, for example, I have been asking all the Indians who are contributing to the political system, candidates, and take a photo up and go away, I tell them, what did you ask? What was your demand when you wrote a check of $2,500 or $250 or whatever? What did you demand from him? Pravinji, you will be shocked to know, we ourselves don't know what to ask for. So it ends up being a photo op. And then when they do something anti-Hindu, then we say, Arey, we gave them money and they are against us, but you never asked them not to do so. This is a story about Bill Clinton. In a heavy Indian donor community, he asked the Indians, what do you want from me? And they all said, we want a picture with you. Just as you laughed. That these people don't even know what a simpleton we are. And we have to begin to ask. The senator who told me once, you don't ask, is because we have no list of demands. And I am asking every Indian here, and I'm on record doing that. I've asked every Indian here that when you go to a politician, tell them, this is what I want. Make a very simple list. Don't complicate it. Make a simple list that I do not want you to, if there is any legislation being passed or considered which mentions the word Hindu or caste, you will talk to us first. Give us the chance to explain instead of sitting on judgment and passing a judgment on that. Because you and I know, and half the Bharat knows, that caste is a casta of Portuguese thing. Everybody knows that. I'm sick and tired of that. I asked the question, the reverse question. Why didn't we promote our Varna system? What stopped us? Right? Why didn't we promote our Varna system? That's what the world is all about. So if the Englishmen and Americans could drop ironsmith, goldsmith, and whatever smith they were, and they all became Smith, we can do the same thing to ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So because
True.
this is very important. Again, the concept is critical to understand the body politic. आँख का काम है देखना, नाक का काम है श्वास लेना, सुनते हैं, खाते हैं और वहां से निकालते हैं. Is there any part of our body which is irrelevant to our need? That's exactly how the society operates. Somebody has got to do something. And that's what I have always been saying. This is one thing which I learned in America. Tremendous respect for the job people do. Nobody looks down upon anyone for whatever they do. And there is a sense of pride in doing what they do. And it was in me too. In 1991, when I came here, I saw the bus driver and I saw him driving the bus with so much sense of pride. And I realized, oh my God, brought in Mahabharata, imported Mahabharata thought. ये तो हमारा सारथी है, right? मुंबई में हमारे दोस्त ने अपने ड्राइवर को कहा, ड्राइवर को गाली दी. मैंने कहा कि वो तुम्हारा सारथी है, उसके बिना तुम 1 किलोमीटर भी नहीं जा सकते हो. Respect to whatever one does is important. The body politic, Varna system, because like I said earlier on, sports is the biggest favorite analogy of mine. Army is another analogy. I'm a banker. I'm a banker of one type. Not every banker can be like me, and I can't be like others. Banking itself has lots of, specializations required, like in the army, like in sports. So we have to begin to respect anything that anybody does. Batsman is important, runs to be scored. Wicket bowler is required to get the batsman out. That's the definition of the role. So we have to understand, simplify the problem, solutions become easy. So there is a tremendous amount of temples are being attacked. Why? Because they don't know our temple culture. And here is one example I want to say. I know we have crossed an hour time, but there is one example I'll give you. When somebody asks me, why do you guys worship so many gods? Now, I can give them our illustration why we do that, right? But I had to make them understand in their own language, based on their own socio-cultural values. So I asked him in a very simple way. Praveenji, I told him, ever been to a hospital? He said, yes. I said, how many specialist doctors and generalist doctors are there? So many of them. I said, you go to a doctor who you need. And other doctors don't come to kill you because you did not visit them. That's how our temples are. Our temples are like your hospitals. Every god lives in those temples peacefully. We go to the temple to pray to whatever is my need. Whether it's Mahalakshmi, Durga, Shivji, जो भी हम उनकी आरती उतार के हम चले आते हैं, right? We have to understand. He said, oh my God, I never thought about it from that point of view. I said, you have to begin to explain that. So this is what is important. And I want to say this to you very happily and very proudly, that Indian American community has become very active now. We are watching, we are seeing what is happening. We are not taking anything for granted anymore, and we contest. So we have a Federation of India and Indic Studies that does study only legislative elements that passes in House and Senate, whether it impacts us or not. Which legislation we want to support, which we don't want to support, we convey that to the legislators. This is the way we are now shaping up. We have, several institutions have come, and I don't want to promote them as such, but I want people to know this. Hindu American Foundation does its job. Coalition of Hindus of North America does its own job. Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America does its own job. Hindu Action does its own job, but we have a problem. The problem lies that there is a group called Hindus for Human Rights. Naam to bahut acha laga sunne, but it is totally against Hindus, giving Hindus Hindu rights. We have to expose them as well. And we have to take on our own people first. As the famous saying goes, you lose the fort not because somebody broke the fort, because somebody opened the door from inside. Right? So this is what is important for us to know, is to create the environment, what I call conditions of satisfaction for yourself. Build your commonality of purpose. Create the confluence of interests and intent, and you will have automatic agreement. Like, okay, I will not let anybody destroy me. That's simple as that. Protect and defend our dharma has to be our primary motive. Our dharma, our family, our children, they are our own. And it begins from there.
So true. So, Vibhuti Ji, there are very important things that you mentioned. And one of the important things that you said is, that technically we have to make the best use of technology. And when we say technology in today's time, it includes, the world of media and films. And it's very, very important. Like, through the technology of media, we have connected, world apart. We are talking live and, the people around the world who are watching it, So that is a very, very important thing. I think this is where we need to, focus more, leveraging on this, films and the media technology
Right.
in setting the true narrative of Hindus of Bharat, and also using it as a very, very effective weapon against, the people who are propagating the false narratives. So that's a very, very important thing. And Prachyam is, working. I think we should talk, sometime later, how we can come together, what Prachyam can do in this area along with that. Because, what I'm reminded of right now is, you talked about Qatar. Qatar, what they did. Qatar and the entire Arab world, they got together and they funded billions of dollars in the 80s, to create Al Jazeera. And Al Jazeera became, the voice of the Islamic world. And now they have become so powerful, so prominent, that even the Western media looks at them for endorsement. The Indian diaspora, we need such a voice. And I think if Prachyam can be that voice, or if we can do something, I'll be very happy to do that, because this is a space we've been working in, for a very long time now, and we are dedicated for this cause and mission, and we should come together on this. So because
Absolutely. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. आप कुछ कह रहे थे, बोलिए.
So I was just saying that they are using this technology, they're using the audio-visual medium, the media, the social media, creating all these type of narratives, audio-visual narratives on social media, and there's an onslaught, on the young, impressionable Hindu children. So they have, weaponized it. They are using it as a very, very effective tool. They are using all kind of, wokist agenda in that, and they're doing it very, very strategically and very intelligently. We need to identify all this, and we need to counter it.
It's a very powerful statement you made. Counter it, identify it. For that, we have to first make a determination of our own. What do we want, and how do we want to do it? I'm telling you, when I came to America, I learned a few things. One of them was, you need 3 M's. It's very interesting how 3 M's became empowering. There's a word called empower, right? The empowering comes from money power, muscle power, and media power. That's the interpretation of empowering. Where does empower come from? Empower him. But how will you empower him if you do not have money, muscle, and media? You and I know that. Entire Bharat knows now how Bollywood destroyed through media our entire ऐतिहासिक virtues. Correct? To do that, we have to counter that. एक धुरंधर ने सबकी हवा उड़ा दी. Right? The important part here is to be able to identify. I coined this phrase, confluence of interest and the confluence of interests, purposes, confluence of purposes and confluence of interest, commonality of purpose and confluence of interest. If we do that, then we can identify places where we can cooperate, coordinate, and collaborate. I began to see the virtues of that. What you can do, I can't. What I can do, you can't. But there are areas on which we can, Satyam Shivam Sundaram ko, we can bring them together. On which areas we can come together. So if we begin to identify, this is what I want, I may be able to do, I may not be able to do, nothing wrong in it. Doesn't mean I'm not cooperating with you. But we have to learn, if you can't do it, who else can do it? That's how you widen the circle of influence. Because we all know somebody or the other. In banker's language, I always used to say, there is always money to be given. Are you asking the right guy? Right? Because money also has its own elements of restrictions and inabilities. So if you ask Bill Gates Foundation to give you money for Prachyam, he will not, because that's not part of his objective. Likewise, we have to find people to do that. So cooperation, coordination, and collaboration are the must to what you can do. What do you need? We need to define that. And goal has to be to establish our Purusharth, Parakram, and Prabhuta. If we do that, our as an ambition and goal, that we will not be wanting or not be treated as misunderstood or victim, we have to have inculcate values of our own. And it begins with family. We know, and you know, the world knows, that the communist ideology wants to destroy family as a unit, because that's where the element of unity is taught first. So I'm saying this very clearly, that there are many congressmen and senators here, they have become aware of that. Geopolitically, India's importance cannot be declined, cannot be negated. But what is important is to make your place in that. If you don't make a place, then you get ignored. Understanding the nature of the beast is critical. If somebody is interested in a transaction, do a transaction. And I gave this example in one of the forums. I said, if somebody is interested in having a one-night relationship, why are you proposing marriage to that? It won't work. Those are the hard realities of life. So we are recognizing the truth. That's why I say Satyameva Jayate needs to become our primary slogan now. Let's give Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam a little bit of a rest, because everybody uses that. Because actually it's important, because Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam hamara definition hai, right? It is a Hindu Sanatan definition of the universe. But in their universe, you and I don't exist. We don't belong in their universe. In the Islamic universe and the Christianity, hardcore Christianity universe, you and I are the enemy. Oh, that is an unwanted guy. He's a non-believer. So we have to understand that part. That what is the truth here then? Does your nose do anything different than my nose does? Establish the commonality of purpose there. This is where the dialogue begins. Words matter. I've been working on this matter for the last 40 years now, Praveenji. I came to one conclusion on communication. Words matter. Words change minds. Minds move mountains.
Absolutely. Very well said, You said, and I'm so happy to listen from you, you said, that the Hindus are becoming aware and they're becoming more active now. That's a wonderful news, If I had to ask you that, what has changed over the last 5 years in terms of Hindu advocacy and public engagement?
Very important. In the last 5 years, we have seen the rise of certain organizations in India, in the US, where we are directly engaging the congressmen, senators, and House representatives directly. We are talking to them. Why are you doing this to us? People have begun asking questions. We have begun exposing Indian American Muslim Council or Hindus for Human Rights and organizations like that. We are trying to tell everybody, do your job, don't fight with each other. This is something, this is also part of our challenge. Because हम अपने आप को बहुत तीस मार खा समझते हैं सब. So we easily fall into the negativity of criticize Praveen Chaturvedi, but don't help him. We are trying to change that ideology by saying, let him do what he wants. If you want to support him, but don't have to shoot him down. So support each other if you can. If you can't support, leave them alone, let them do it. So you have a situation here that you have Hindu American Foundation, Coalition of Hindus of North America, VHPA here, Hindu Action. Another friend of mine in VHPA has started Hindu Dvesh, a publication, a fortnightly publication. These are kind of things that are happening. It is circulating amongst us. And we are also exposing those who are against us. This is what has begun to happen here. In terms of policy thing, I think about just before 4th of July, I told you FIIDS, Federation of India and Indic Studies, we had a session, Kona had a session with hundreds of congressmen, hundreds of representatives came from all over the country. This is important. Kona and FIIDS के जो समारोह हुआ था यहाँ पे, each one of them met congressmen, their staffers, and senators. We were emphasizing on them about who we are. Is it the perfect way? It is not the perfect way. We will learn and we will become better. So we are also talking about how do we become more efficient and more effective. Because as a
बहुत सही कहा आपने, वेरी वेल सेड. विभूति जी, हमारे यहाँ एक परंपरा रही है. पहली बात तो ये समझना बहुत आवश्यक है कि वी आर एट वॉर. दिस इज अ नैरेटिव वॉर which is going on, and wars have to be fought strategically. Wars के लिए strategies बनानी पड़ती हैं. और अगर आपसे बस इतना पूछना चाहूँ कि ये भी बहुत आवश्यक, it's very very important that we also see, understand, closely analyze, do a purva paksh, of what the other people, who are against us, who are fighting with us, who are trying to, bring us down, what are these Islamists, and the other people, the lobbies, the wokists, the Marxists, the leftists, as you mentioned, how they are fighting, how they are lobbying, how they are making the best use of the system, in the country, how politically aware they are, what all tools, they are using to further their narratives and their propaganda and their side, of the fight.
Key question for the day, actually. You have asked the key, most important question of the day. Our enemies are doing whatever they want to do to eliminate us. I'm asking the question, what am I doing to protect and defend myself? So, what are they doing? They have understood something very important. They are using freedoms as the fault line of democracy. Because in our system, you are not guilty until proven, right? They have surreptitiously, in a villainous manner, begun to blame you and I, not giving you the freedom to fight for yourself, denying you the freedom to fight, while claiming their own self. So what I have found is, you look at India as well. India, you look at this way, you have people who are doing Aman Ki Asha, and people are asking people to sign up this one, but nobody is asking the enemy neighbor, to change anything in their philosophy. So it begins from us. As a very wise man recently said, if you don't take responsibility for your action, you become responsible for what happens to you. So we have to first take the responsibility. Draw the Lakshman Rekha around us. That's very important. Unless you draw the Lakshman Rekha, you cannot. I want everybody to go and start reading Panchatattva ki kahaniyan. Sara gyan wahan pada hua hai sab. Read the basic and the fundamentals, because that's where everything begins from. Shikari aayega, dana dalega, bhul se usme phasna mat. Do we need to go to Harvard to study that? This is very important for us to configure that the ज्ञान विज्ञान सारा हमारे सिस्टम में है, हमें उसका उपयोग करना है साहब. Those people are using fascist tools, street battles. They come to street. उनको पता है साहब. I mean, I have always wondered about this question. Why is it that उनके 10 लोग आते हैं, गांव में तलवार भांजते हैं, हमारे 1000 पूरे लोग गांव छोड़ के चले जाते हैं? Right? Why? ये पलायनवाद कहां से आया हमारे कल्चर में? When did this develop? You are a soldier, I want you to say that. Where did that culture came about? So I coined a new phrase for that. I tell people, मारो या मरो भागो मत. और वही लोग मुझे कहते हैं कि अगर आपके 100 लोग भी खड़े हो जाएंगे लाठी लेकर के, तो हमारी थोड़ी हिम्मत है कि लड़ सकें हम. Charity begins at home. Get to know what you want. Draw a Lakshman Rekha in your behavior and conduct. Make a resolution that I'm responsible for my actions. Otherwise, whatever will happen, I will be responsible for that. And Astra Shastra heen mat hoiye. Empower yourself. Empower yourself with money, muscle, and media. You are on the media side, and you need money.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There are just very, very few points, that we are going to touch upon before we, conclude this wonderful conversation that I'm having. I know it's kind of a little bit going over time, but, I can't stop myself from asking, a few questions and know your thoughts and perspective on those. And before I proceed, may I request the viewers, who are watching this globally, today we are having a special coupon code, as you can see, Bharat 30, a 30% discount for the next 24 hours. If anybody wants to subscribe to Prachyam, please do that. So coming back to you, Vibhuti Ji, some very, very important, pertinent things that you pointed out. I want to ask you, what role should temples play beyond being places of worship? Because as we are talking, on the other side, their places of worship, they play a very, very important role in, mass awakening or creating awareness or, putting forth, some kind of agenda. What we should do, what role our temple should play?
Look, temple must become part of our integral life. It's not an isolated building. Let's begin that thought process very clearly. Temple must become part of our integral life. We know our itihas has told us that there was a thing called temple economy. Donation was not for that X Prabhu or Y Devi unko alankar karenge or alankrit karenge. Goal was to create an ecosystem. Temples are part of that ecosystem. And our temples particularly, if we begin to pay attention to them, they are wonders of architecture, design, engineering, art, and inspiration. We must restore these elements to our temples and learn from that. So temple, I think in the Indian context, there are two elements here. Temples were hijacked. We know our temples were destroyed because they played a critical role in our life. They have been destroyed, and I'm of the opinion, and I'm very vocal about it, that everything has a limit. That's why Lakshman Rekha is important. If we see the evidence, if we see an example of our temple destroyed and something else built over it, I don't need to prove there was a temple there beforehand. We have to begin to demand. Everybody knows that our temples were desecrated, vandalized, destroyed. Somnath, कितने उदाहरण दें हम यहाँ पे आपको? और मुझे उदाहरण देने की जरूरत नहीं है. I don't need to give you that example. Reclaim your temples. Forget about the ugly, dirty elements. Human beings are imperfect. Absolutely. There will be cheat here, there will be a cheat there. But go by the larger number. Go by the larger number and support the temple mechanism, temple economy, temple politically. And I tell you here, when I fought the election here, I wanted to go to a Hindu temple and meet them to say they allow me to speak to the devotees here for my vote. And the temple committee said, no, we are not political entities. We will not let you do that. But I said, it happens in other places of worship. Why not you? Oh, we are not like that. I said, I'm not wanting you to be like that. You are not abusing anybody else, whereas they abuse us. At least let me say that who am I and what am I doing for our own community? So temples will have to understand that living in an entity that is driven by social, technology, economics, and politics, of which you are part of, you can't shun technology. You can't shun social. You can't shun economic element. After all, temples also need money. So if I have to give you money, then you have to fulfill my requirement as well. So we have to create a cohesive argument. I think everybody knows that. We have to reclaim our temples. That's my thought process on this. Reclaim for the original purpose of a temple economy, of a temple administration, temple management. If we bring it in our lives, every Hindu has a temple in his own home, right? So why not do that? We do Alankar, we do Sthapana, Murti Sthapana. So we have to begin to learn to say, it's not a statue, it's a Murti. You know, I gave the example to somebody about it. It's a funny part of it. Sometimes I come up with my own answers. He says, you guys worship stone. I said, yeah, when you take the stone and hit somebody, it becomes a weapon, doesn't it?
Very well said, Very well said. Vibhuti Ji, I would like to know your thoughts, that how can Hindu parents prepare their children to respond very confidently to misinformations about Hinduism in schools and universities?
Yeah, this is a very serious problem, actually. In America, it is a very serious problem. We know that even in India, it is a big problem. And we know who are the people who are opposing it. The opposing people are part of the woke conclave, if I may say so. A woke gang. I call Indians woke, I call them Wokistanis. So let's put it that way. The point of the matter is here is that, it will take a long time. Because in a democratic process, what gets established once, if you want to append it, you have to give valid reasoning and arguments, which majority of Indian parents are not equipped to handle. Majority of the Hindu parents have not even studied, forget study, not even read Mahabharata and Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita. But there are lots of Gita conclaves happening, Gita satsang is happening. ये चीजें बहुत हो रही हैं. लोग समझने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं. They are trying to analyze and study. And this is something important. And I must share that with your audience. When I asked my Muslim friend, how do you persuade these innocent young children to blow themselves up for 72 virgins? This was a very decent conversation with a very decent guy. He said, Jha sahab, आप लोग के पास भगवत गीता है, हम उसको पालन करते हैं, आप सिर्फ पढ़ते हैं. I was astounded. I was totally bowled over. I said, tell me more about it. He says, chapter 2, Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna about body and soul, about his responsibility. That's what we do there, in a very vulgar, unnecessary way. But it serves our purpose. आप जान बचाने के लिए भाग जाते हो. This is what is important for us to understand, that we have to study. And I tell you this one, Bhagavad Gita ka, this impact is so important. The chapter 18 gives you the success formulas for life. Chapter 18 enunciates the success principles for life, which management consultants teach to their clients. I want everybody to have everybody here go back, start Bhagavad Gita not with chapter 1, start with chapter 18. At least you will have some selfish content there. How do I become successful?
Very well said. And that reminds me, when I was studying in the US, in a university there, I saw that there was a program, called Gita for Management. And Gita was being taught, for management.
Yes.
And that, I was very, very inspired, to see that. And that's a very good thought that you reminded me of. I think, Prachyam should make a short film, on this only, on this topic.
I will shamelessly self-invite myself on that chapter. I will also like to do something.
Wonderful. That'll be great. That'll be wonderful. Vibhuti Ji, now looking ahead, what are the biggest threats that you think are faced, the Hindu Americans will face over the next decade? And what opportunities exist to reverse this trend?
One of the things that we need to get out of is the Hindu apathy. Hindu apathy. This is very important. We are, there is a very nice phrase in English language. It's called the lotus eaters. We can't become lotus eaters and with a satranj ke khiladi attitude. That is devastating. And I can tell you this, I'm quoting a very prominent Indian American here. When we succeeded in persuading Governor Newsom in California to not sign or veto the bill, caste bill, this lady came on our show. And I asked her the same question. How is it that Silicon Valley allowed this caste bill to happen in that territory of theirs? Where were the millionaire Indians and what did they do? And this lady said to us on the show, it is on record, she said she was totally aghast. And she was a Democrat once, she is now a Republican. She said she was totally aghast at the apathy of Indian Americans, the millionaire Indian Americans in Silicon Valley. They had three attitudes. One was, nothing will happen to us. Second was, when something happens, we'll see what to do. And the third one was, nothing will happen to us. You see the distinction between all three of them? This is where more than 80%, these are her statements, more than 80% of the Indian Americans in Silicon Valley, millionaires, that is the apathy that will hurt us the most. Second thing that will hurt us very badly is our refusal to see the bleeding obvious. That is another deadly thing that can affect us. Apathy, becoming lotus eaters with Satranji Khiladi mindset, and then you saying, everything will be fine, no worries. I've seen this, it has, nothing will happen, we have survived. No, you will not survive. You don't survive if you are dead. That's the important thing to realize. Third one, which is very important, and I'm glad you asked that element. The very famous Indian journalist shared with me an article. I know him too. He knows me as well. He wrote an article saying that Bhutto's 1,000-year war has another 950 odd years to go. And I replied back to him, I said, no, Islam in reality has won its first 1,000-year war ever since Khilji to now. In as much as three regions, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, were created by cutting off our land. Three Islamic republics were given our land. And we have a problem of Owaisi's Hyderabad, Rahul Gandhi's Wayanad, Bhiwandi, Behrampur, Bhagalpur, pockets of who want to balkanize you. So Bhutto won the first 1,000-year war. This is the same thing. And I gave the same example to a president of a very famous Hindu university here, who said Sanatan will survive. And I said, Sanatan doesn't survive in Gandhar Pradesh anymore. Sanatan doesn't survive in Sharda Peeth and Shaivite temples of Kashmir. It doesn't survive in Bhiwandi, Bhagalpur, and Behrampur. So the Sanatan doesn't survive in Karachi or Indus Valley. What do you think? Where will it survive? We have to begin to ask these fundamental questions to us. And I think there is a progress happening on that. And that's where I go back to my favorite thing. Science and technology is our biggest enabler. As you very rightly said,
absolutely.
You are in India, I'm here in the US, and we are having a live chat. People are listening to us all over the world.
True, absolutely true. So
this is where the
Vibhuti Ji,
mobilization has to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are working towards that, and we will surely do that. It's just that, we have to come together We have to unite, we have to realize how important it is now to stand united and work, for this cause. How important it is, to preserve whatever is remaining, to protect ourselves, and also to pass it on to the coming generation, to the youth and the children. They are the futures. They are going to be, the torchbearers for us. So, Vibhuti ji, if you had one message for the Hindus across the world, especially young professionals, students, and families living in the West, what would it be about protecting their identity while positively contributing to the society?
Your identity is your most important thing. Your name is your most beautiful word that you have ever heard. Don't let anybody distort it. Vibhuti is Vibhuti, it is not Vibhutai. It's not Vibhuti. I corrected my American friends and I taught them the alphabet Ta. Most of my American friends call me Vibhuti exactly the way it should be. That's the important part, the individual responsibility everybody must take. I will not let my Hinduness go. God made me a Hindu and proved to others with simple inquiries about conversion. Conversion, I say this openly to both Muslims and Christians, conversion is a sin against God's original intent. If God, the ultimate magician, if he wanted me to be a Muslim or a Christian, he would have given me birth in that family. So there is a thing called sanskar.
Absolutely.
I am born Hindu. If you are trying to convert, God did not tell you to convert anybody. Religion does. Make a distinction between God and religion. God did not create religion, people did. And that's why it is so imperfect. So what I'm trying to say to the youth here, Indian American, this is a remarkable thing that we all must do. Identify yourself, be proud of what you are doing, and do not let anybody dilute you from what you are, essence of who you are. And whatever else you have heard today, do something. Unity will come once you establish commonality of purpose and confluence of interest. Our interest is the soldier and the banker has an interest in creating the media power, right? How unlikely was that? Or how unlikely is it that we are together on this? We did not go to a management school to collaborate. So I always propose to all Hindus, parents and everybody else, learn to collaborate, cooperate, and coordinate and mobilize. That's my 3CM formula. I have broken my life into several simple words that always remind me. 3CM is my formula. Purusharth, Parakram, Prabhutva is my 3 Ps. And I have 4 A's. Borrowed from Swami Vivekananda ji. Arise, awaken, assert. I added Vibhuti Jha's 4th A to that is act. Because if you don't act, your knowledge and intelligence means nothing. As a warning sign that came to me from it's not a warning sign, it was an excellent observation by somebody, non-Hindu. He said, you guys have tremendous knowledge and information and everything sitting in your texts. What you miss out is that you are not wise and smart. It's a food for thought.
That's a very, very important takeaway for our audience today, watching our show. There's some very wise words of wisdom. I think these are my 3 W's. That's wonderful, Vibhuti ji. And before we move on to the question and answer session, because there are a lot of questions, and we are going to take a break, and we are going to come back, for a short. I can't put all the questions, but I'll just put forth, some questions from the audience to you for you to answer. But before I take a break, Vibhuti ji, you have been a very dear friend to me. You have been a great supporter. You have been a subscriber, an admirer of the work that we do at Prachyam. I would like you to share your thoughts about Prachyam and why do you think Prachyam is very, very important for the cause, for all the discussions we had today, and how Prachyam can help the entire Indian diaspora in the West, especially in the North America.
Look, in North America, it's very important to understand that Prachyam is giving you that self-consciousness, awareness, and an identity of your itihas that we have somewhere along the line lost or forgotten. For a variety of reasons, we will not go down there. Therefore, when I heard Praveenji talk about setting up his first ever OTT, I said, oh my God, you deserve it. What you have done through your commitment and purpose and intent deserves not only a round of applause, but this as well. Because even God needs money. The churches, the mosques, and temples, they all need money. Let's put it this way. God doesn't, temples do, mosques do, church do. Religion needs. God doesn't need money. We collect money in the name of God. But identity is your own. If you are missing out on your identity and your persona of who you are and what you can do, subscribe to Prachyam. Because listen, let me tell you something. I can disagree with Praveenji for everything that he does, but I will always applaud him for creating the first 2 episodes that I watched, The Sahibs That Never Left. The Sahibs That Never Left was the thought that came to my mind, and I missed to do the show on that. That when Delhi Gymkhana thing happened, that was what came to my mind. The Sahib's tale that is left behind in Delhi Gymkhana. If that is not enough motivation for you, then I'm sorry, you needn't be here. And I want to tell you something. This man is doing something on the arena of one of the 3 M's, media. And that needs to become powerful because we have no other doing what he does. There are many talk shows, there are many plethora of shows have come up, mine included, because we are able to communicate and talk. At least if you don't like what I'm saying, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to put a bullet in my head, and I won't let you. Because before you try to put a bullet, I'll break your hand. Be sashakt. Be sashakt. Be ready. If you are not ready to protect and defend yourself, how will you defend your family? And this is a lesson I learned, when we do international flying or domestic flying, wherever. You all listen to the security drill, right? The one that struck me when I was reading a book when the air hostess was doing her work, when the cabin pressure falls, the oxygen mask will drop. First, put it on yourself before helping others. So if you are not yourself saksham, how will you help anybody else? So prepare yourself, get battle ready, develop a sports mind, become a military, learn lessons from military. I value military and sports a lot. My personal life is based on virtues of sports. You never take your opponent for granted. That's the lesson of military and sports. And to be ready to face your enemy, you have to be ready all the time. And how are you ready? You don't start shooting bullseye from the very first shot. You need practice, 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 and practice. Discipline, 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 and discipline. That's what sportsmen and military people do. They are battle ready every single moment. Get battle ready.
Wonderful. Thank you for your kind words, Vibhuti Ji. And we are going to take a short break. And then we are going to meet, for the question and answer session.
From the timeless Vedas to the valiant warriors, From the wisdom of the rishis to the dreams of a new Bharat, our civilization has never stopped inspiring the world. Prachyam, the world's first Indic OTT, brings the glory of Bharat to the world. 400 plus films and series. From history to heritage, from devotion to discovery, every story is an offering to our eternal civilization. From G20 to Tokyo, the world is witnessing the voice of Bharat rise again.
बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा होती है।
ज्ञान का पुनरुद्धारण का कार्य है।
Prachyam is doing an amazing job.
60 साल में हमने जो खोया वो वापस लाने का काम कर रहा है।
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है।
Your contribution is not a donation. It is an ahuti in this Mahayagya of the Indic Renaissance.
तो सब्सक्राइब करें प्राचम।
Welcome back, viewers. And now we are starting our Q&A session. Vibhuti Ji, I'll be putting, the questions on your screen. You can please read it out first, for the audience, and then you can give the answers. Here's the first question on your screen.
Sankofa Diary. There is a lot of awakening in US too about the peaceful takeover. Specifically, if you hear PBC's Pat team, Nick Shirley et al. Is being called out. Isn't it, Vibhuti Ji? Yes, you are right. Religion has become a conversation. Everybody is pushing their own agenda. So you have people on the right, doing things, religious fanatics are doing things the way they attacked Vivek Ramaswamy and others. We have to do our bit. And we have to begin ourselves to be heard. The commonality of purpose that I talk about and confluence of interest with the right fanatic religious nuts in this country, I established commonality of purpose. Who is our common enemy? Think about it. You are right.
Here's another question.
Paris. How has the DEI ecosystem impacted Hindu Americans in universities and workplaces? It has hurt. It has hurt. Discriminations have happened. A lot of Indian children who used to get internships or jobs very easily are not getting. I am told that there is an unwritten convention being pushed through the country agenda is that before you hire an Indian, try out everybody else. Sad thing, but true. There was a time when we were able to place them so easily because they are so good. It's not that it's doing a favor, Indian doing an Indian a favor. Because these boys and girls who come here or higher studies or people who are working in these places, we are actually good. It's not that charity. Because we performed. We actually performed well. We brought in higher ROI, higher ROC to every job that we did. So it has affected because we are not included in diversity. We are not taken into equity because we are already doing well. And inclusion, no, sorry, we are excluded.
Here's another one.
Why are Hindu students on campuses often forced to defend their religion before they can even explain it? That's a very, very important question, and that's what I was talking about. I would urge you to, watch one of my shows on Jaipur Dialogue in which we did a very in-depth conversation on saving Hindu children. Defending you can defend only what you have. So they don't even know how to explain it. Because to a normal mind, if somebody says Hanuman is a monkey, you and I know that Hanuman was not a monkey, or whatever it is. It is a swarup of something. But before you use the word swarup, you have to know the entity. And that's what is important for people to know. Hindu students can't even defend. Now it is happening. I want to tell you this. I'm very happy about that now gradually these educations are taking place and Hindu students are becoming more active. That is true, but still small. Deshraj Singh, at the same time, are some religions, conservatives within the Republican Party ecosystem also uncomfortable with the Hindu theology and practices? Yes, you are right. See, these people are very indoctrinated. Jesus is the only way, right? There are times when you have to explain to them in the language that they understand. Forget about theology and practices, right? I do very simple exercise. I do live by Einstein's principles, actually. Any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. Takes courage to move in the other direction. Apply that. So, for example, somebody says Jesus is the only way. I said, I'm glad for you. I'm very glad for you. Jesus is the only way. Leave me alone to my Shiva. Leave me alone to my Krishna. Why can't you do that? Is your freedom of religion actually giving me freedom of religion? No, you are not. Because you are indoctrinating me to convert to yours, which means denying me my freedom of religion. You have to argue that out. So theology and practices are very simple. The practices are virtually similar. I said, tell me, is your burger better than my tikka masala? So how can you say this is the ultimate? Every country in the world has its own share of beautiful women and handsome men. Good men, bad men, ugly men, not so ugly men, whatever. Every country has, every religion has, everything has its own elements. Question that. That's what is important to do. Are Hindu D26866, are Hindu Americans becoming the Jews of the 21st century in terms of being targeted despite their success? I would not say Jews as such, but America has gone through its own cycle of anger and hate against different ethnicities at different points in time. That is also true about America. Maybe it's in cyclical order, this is our time, because we are successful. There's nothing one can do about it. We are, when I was on a PBS TV show for an interview, the PBS president asked me, Vibhuti, can you explain why you Hindus are so cool and calm? I never found any Indian being so upset and whatever. And the reason was very simple, because we believe in the divine. We believe in our karma. We have very simple philosophies that define us. So we are of that kind, people, we don't hurt anybody. Never heard of any Indian going with a machete or a gun trying to kill death to America. Nobody has done that. They wonder, how the hell how do people live here? So there is an element that I agree with the Jews that we are the two faiths that don't go for propaganda and conversion. And other two want to kill us. There is a commonality of purpose there.
Absolutely.
Vibhuti Nath, okay. When we Hindus decide to move overseas for personal gain, follow the Western ways, do we have the right to speak against Hinduphobia? Oh, of course, you have to speak against phobia. First of all, phobia is a false thing, right? You understand that word. I'm talking about when it has transgressed into Hindumesia, hate. Now, when we Hindus decide to move overseas for personal gain, look, migration, immigration always happens for 2 or 3 key reasons. Everybody wants to improve his economic welfare. Everybody wants to run away from political oppression. And there's a third category, people go for higher studies. Our own Nalanda is the example of higher studies, how people came there. They did not migrate because they were running away from somebody for any reason. I left Bihar because under one dispensation of the mighty Lalu Yadav, Bihar education system was running 2 or 3 years behind. I said I refused to give in to that. And I took the bold step at that time to come to Pune to study there. Life changed. I did not come to migrate because I was suffering from economic depravity. Not that my father was a rich guy, he was a university lecturer, earning 500, 600 rupees salary at that time. But the point is that you take a decision and move forward. So people who came from India to here, I'll tell you, I'm not a typical Indian immigrant here. I came on an expat, very, very powerful way. I was American Express employee in India. I came here, everything was waiting for me. I was on an expat package. But I understood here. Because majority of the Indians who are here, you have to understand that, they came with $6 or $8 in their pocket. That's what Reserve Bank of India P form allowed. And I have done this in RBI Bangalore office. Immigrating, $6 allowance given per day basis. These people left India not because they wanted to leave India, because they were fed up and tired of policies that the Congress government followed then that prevented them from doing what they wanted. The only difference was that these people came, they took the daring step of borrowing or arranging money to come here to lead a better life. And life in America is better. If you look at it this way, I was a Reserve Bank officer, the highest paid job in the public sector in India. I could not afford a refrigerator, could not afford a car, could not afford a motorcycle, but there was no program or schemes available. I used to walk from Cunningham Road, RBI officers' quarters, to Nrupthunga Road, RBI office, walking every day until I was able to muster some money and bought a car, bought a motorcycle. Life was tough. But the Indian students came here, they found their dorm fitted with AC, heater, hot water, cold water. There was a program available to buy a car, great roads. So materially, the life became better. That doesn't mean you surrender your spiritual authority. So you have to speak against Hinduphobia, because phobia is against you in whatever shape and size you are. The Sanko of Diary. Unfortunately, the Indian diaspora, who comprise of people like us, our economic group and literacy, are mostly wokish. How do you counter the friend and family such? Prachyam, this is I'm dealing with that all the time. 80% plus Indians live in blue states. California, New York, Washington, New Jersey, Connecticut, you know that. Since you're asking the question, you know that. These are all blue states. They are all woke states. So it's automatic to be part of the winning political system. It's automatic. The second element is that Democratic Party presents itself as a pro-immigrant. That's a vote bank politics. Republicans are not against immigration. They are saying have a regulated immigration. That's the only difference. But the Democrats are able to paint Republicans as the evil, anti-immigrant. And that's how you have to do that. But how do you counter your friend and family? Is to ask a very important question. That Democratic Party today is a totally woke party. Now they have a democratic socialist wing led by Mamdani and Bernie Sanders and others who are talking about abolishing Pentagon, abolishing military, abolishing police, abolishing Senate, abolishing all immigration requirement, all rules and orders. Are you in favor of that? And they are totally against you and I. I have questioned this to many Democrats. Which part of your policy agenda benefits Hindus? Let's be very clear, specific, down to that particular question. Which policy of Democratic Party favors you? Are you part of that woke agenda where you are the target? Can you be foolish enough to do that? That you want to go to somebody who wants to kill you? You have to question that part. Sancofidine, yes. Yeah. Rajesh Kadamji. Sir, why can't Indian community in the US influence UC monitors the way Israelis do? We are among very wealthy and successful, prosperous, and peaceful citizens in America. Thank you. Yes, you are right. There is a reason for that. There is a reason for that we are wealthy people, yes, of course, but we don't give money for our own causes. And I want to ask everybody who's watching today, give $1 or $1 million, what you can afford, to Prachyam today. Begin that yatra. Very few Indians come forward to donate. दान का concept है हमारे पास, लेकिन हम दान देते कम हैं. We are tough on ourselves. We needn't be. I would urge people to give. Give those you like. If you don't like me, don't watch my show. I'm perfectly fine with that. But if you like something, support. That support element is missing with us. The other part of your question, influence policymakers, we are doing that now. I mentioned to you earlier the names of institutions that we have created here. Hindu American Foundation, KOHNA, Hindu Pact, Hindu, all Hindu Action, VHPA, FIDS, Federation of India and Indian Studies. We have all come together and we interact now with the congressmen to influence them, policymakers. The way the Israelis do, we can't. It will take us time to get there. But the Israelis were driven by survival instinct. And they made a lot of money. They understood which are the levers of system, which are the empowering elements of the society, and they went for that. It will take us time to get there. Prashant Kharche. Has the economic and academic success of Hindu Americans unintentionally made them targets of resentment? Yes, कहते नहीं है कि सोने पे सुहागा या आग में घी डाल दिया, तो that becomes an eyesore for many of them to see our success. Yes, it does become an eyesore. So I would say that you don't have to suppress yourself. Be yourself. If you have been successful, don't flaunt it. That's what is important. SBA 6505. Why is it Hindus are taught to hate Hinduism? And why is it we are only taught Gandhism way of Hindu? Oh my God. This question of yours merits a whole conversation. It's something like Gandhi ji ne Gandhigiri kar di aur hum Gandhigiri mein phas gaye. But that was a very important question because our education system got completely destroyed. In the first 25 years post-independence, the 5 education ministers were all Muslims, madrasa taught. They distorted our itihas. They distorted our history. When I was studying history, there was one chapter on Shivaji, one chapter on Maharana Pratap, but the whole book was full of Mughal history, Akbar the Great. As the saying goes, why wasn't Maharana Pratap the Great? Why Akbar the Great? And we didn't question. We are obedient people. And that's what is important to know, is that, Gandhism is still changing. It's not easy. Remember one thing, when you are down by 1 goal to win a football match, abhi World Cup chal raha hai, you need 1 goal to win a match. But if you are down by a goal, you have to score 2. And that's why it is tough to overtake that part. Why is it people who are anti-Hindus and anti-India and majority of the time are pro-Islamist and pro-Christian lecture on Hinduism and try to educate Hindus and others on Hinduism? Yes, because we did not write our own narrative. Where is our response to Washington Post, New York Times? See, what happened is, I'll tell you, these religious elements, they have a common enemy, and that is they have identified as you and I. And that's why they collaborate on that to hit at you and I. We have to create our own band of journalists. To give you an example, New York Times and Washington Post pays people to write anti-India, anti-Hindu stuff $500 or $1,000. A friend of mine who runs an Indian paper here, he says, Vibhuti ji, hame koi $50-25 bhi nahi milta to have a correspondent to write against these elements. So again, back to the question, we don't have money. If we have money, we don't give. See, if that person says, agar hame $100 bhi mil gaya, to I can counter those essays. In the absence of those things remain there. But we have technology advantage, which I said, right. You have X, you have Facebook, you have so many social medias. But at the end of the day, I will always say, support the rising tide of Hindu nationalism that has come about, starting with, Prachyam, Praveenji. A soldier has got into media, and I'm glad you guys are here watching and asking questions. I'm so honored and delighted. Thank you so much.
Amazing. That's a wonderful advice. Support, people who are fighting for your cause. Support, organizations who are fighting for the Hindu cause. If you are not able to fight, just respect those people who are fighting, who have given up, their lives, who are dedicated for this purpose, who are working day and night to give you a voice. At least support them in any way. And I say, support them financially, donate to them, support them if you're a professional, support them with your skills, support them, with your time, so everything is very important. And only with this support, we can get the strength to do what we are doing, to take it to the next level, and to make the Hindu voice heard all over the world. I really thank you, Vibhuti Ji, for joining me on my show Unfiltered with Prachyam Live. What a wonderful discussion. 2 hours have gone by, but really, I think none of us, we realize this. It was originally meant, to be for 1 hour, but we have crossed 2 hours now. I thank you once again, for coming here, sparing time, and sharing with our audience some very, very insightful perspectives, some very, very thought-provoking things, that you have shared tonight. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me. It has been an absolute delight and pleasure to share my thoughts with all of you. And now I always say, now that you know whatever you know, do something. Do something. Yeah.
Do something.
In our work, we always say, you have to take a decision knowing what you know. You cannot know everything to take a decision. So like a soldier or a sportsman, be battle ready. Or for being battle ready, you have to be practicing, learning. That's key. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking questions and being part of the show today. Praveenji, it has been a real delight and honor. We waited for a long time. It was worth the wait. And good luck.
Likewise. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Satyameva Jayate.
Satyameva Jayate.
And for truth to succeed, you have to stand up and fight for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
प्राच्यम का जो प्रयास है बहुत गौरव जगाने वाला है।
60 साल में हमने जो खोया उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं।
Prachyam is doing an amazing job.
प्राच्यम का जो पुरुषार्थ है घर घर पहुंचे।
ऐसे अप्रतिम पुरुषार्थ के लिए मेरी अनंत शुभकामनाएं हैं।
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.